Burmese pythons have transformed the entire ecosystem of South Florida. And the only way to find out, well, is to catch them.
Deep in the heart of the Florida Everglades, an ecological mystery is unfolding. A once vibrant landscape has fallen silent. Its mammals vanished. The culprit? An army of giant invasive Burmese pythons. For years, experts have waged a high-tech war against them, deploying everything from scout snakes to robotic lures. But the latest footage reveals a shocking truth and a hidden secret. What did the anti-python project accidentally start in the swamp? And how did it change the fight forever? The answer is a twist nobody expected. The silent invasion. The Burmese python. This is not a local snake. It is a giant from the other side of the world. It can grow longer than a pickup truck and is powerful enough to squeeze the life from a full-grown deer. This invader arrived because of the exotic pet trade. Burmese pythons hunt with heat-sensing pits along their jaws, detecting warm-blooded prey in total darkness. They kill by constriction, not crushing bones, but stopping blood flow with each coil tightening as the prey exhales. People bought tiny patterned hatchlings, but these snakes grow fast and get enormous. Many overwhelmed owners made a terrible choice and released them into the wild, thinking it was kind. Then in 1992, disaster struck in a way no one predicted. Hurricane Andrew, one of the most powerful storms ever to hit Florida, smashed across the state. Its winds were strong enough to flatten buildings. Among the wreckage was a warehouse that bred pythons for pets. The walls blew apart. Hundreds of snakes slithered out of their broken cages and into the storm-ravaged landscape. Overnight, the flooded Everglades became their new kingdom. But scientists now know the real invasion came from decades of pet owners releasing pythons they could no longer care for. The invasion exploded from that moment. The numbers that tell this story are almost unbelievable. They show total collapse. In areas ruled by pythons, raccoon populations have fallen by more than 99%. For every 100 raccoons that were here, maybe one remains. Opossums have vanished at nearly the same rate. The cute round-faced marsh rabbit? Gone. The clever gray fox? Wiped out. These snakes are perfect eating machines with no natural enemies here to slow them down. They have consumed the very foundation of the food web. This is far bigger than just too many snakes. This is the unraveling of an entire world. The crash of the small mammals sends shockwaves through everything. The magnificent and endangered Florida panther now searches for meals that are no longer there. The balance of nature has been broken. The python is deleting entire chapters of Everglades life, one meal at a time. That silence in the swamp is the sound of a crisis. It created a problem so vast and strange that ordinary solutions were useless. It forced scientists and wildlife managers to become detectives, soldiers, and inventors in a desperate war to save what remains. What they tried first and why it failed begins the story of Florida's fight for its future. Early battles, the uphill fight. Faced with a silent swamp and a growing monster snake problem, Florida had to do something. The first reaction was straightforward. If you have too many of something, you hunt it. So the state declared war and put a price on the python's head. They created bounty programs, paying skilled hunters to go into the Everglades and remove as many snakes as they could find. This wasn't just a side hustle, it became a serious job. The state's python elimination program hired contractors, paying them an hourly wage plus big bonuses for especially long snakes or for destroying nests full of eggs. The message was clear: every snake taken out of the swamp is a win. And by the numbers, it worked. Hunters became local legends, pulling gigantic pythons from canals and marshes. To date, these removal programs have taken out over 23,000 snakes. Scientists estimate between 100,000 to 300,000 pythons now live in South Florida. That's an army of invaders, gone. For a while it felt like progress. People were fighting back. But the Everglades had a brutal lesson to teach. You can have the best hunters in the world, but you have to be able to find the enemy. And the Burmese python is a ghost. Its patterned skin melts perfectly into the tangled roots and dappled water. It can stay submerged for days, with just its nostrils above the surface. It doesn't move much, and as a cold-blooded animal, its body temperature matches its surroundings, making it invisible to thermal cameras. In a vast, watery maze of 1,000,000 acres, finding them is like looking for a single, well-camouflaged needle in the world's biggest, wettest haystack. Experts made a chilling estimate. Even with all those hunters walking around staring at the ground, they are probably only seeing 1% of the pythons that are actually there. For every giant snake a hunter catches, 99 more are hiding, watching and breeding. And that's the real problem that makes the hunt feel hopeless. Math. A single female python can lay a clutch of up to 100 eggs at a time. Imagine one hunter, after a brutal week in the swamp, catches a huge 11-foot female. It feels like a victory. But last year, that same snake might have laid 80 eggs. 80 new snakes now growing in the wild. The hunters are running a race on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. For every step forward they take, the python population takes several more. Removing snakes one by one was like trying to bail out a sinking boat with a teaspoon. The water was coming in faster than they could toss it out. To rally the troops and get everyone involved, the state launched something brilliant: the Python Challenge. It's a 10-day public hunt offering cash prizes for the most and largest pythons caught. It opens the swamp to the public, offering cash prizes for the most snakes caught and the biggest one bagged. It's part competition, part festival, and a massive awareness campaign. People come from all over, armed with determination and a sense of adventure. And in 2025, it hit a new record: 294 pythons removed in just over a week. That's a lot of snakes. It shows incredible public spirit and gets people talking about the problem. But the scientists and wildlife managers are very clear about this. The Python Challenge is not the solution. It's a megaphone. Its real job is to shout about the crisis, to get the word out, and to make everyone understand how serious this invasion has become. It's a vital tool for awareness, but it doesn't change the fundamental math of the swamp. So the early battles proved two things. First, people were willing to fight. Hunters, state workers, and everyday citizens were ready to step up. But second, sheer human effort and enthusiasm were not enough. The pythons were winning by simply being better at hiding and breeding. Throwing more people at the problem wasn't going to fix it. The war needed a new strategy. It needed smarter tools, better intelligence, and a way to turn the snake's own secrets against them. The fight was far from over, but the first simple chapter of just hunting was closing. The next chapter would have to be weirder, and it would have to be smarter. The scout in the grass. The war against the pythons needed a new plan. Hunting them at random was not really working, so scientists asked a simple but brilliant question: what if the pythons themselves could show us where to look? This led to one of the smartest tricks in the entire fight: the scout snake. Here is how it works. Researchers from groups like the Conservancy of Southwest Florida capture a specific kind of python, a big, mature male. Why a male? Because during the breeding season, these males do something very predictable. They go looking for females. During Florida's winter months, typically December through April, male pythons actively search for females. They become living, slithering tracking devices, moving straight toward the heart of the problem. The scientists gently implant a small radio transmitter inside the snake. Then they let it go. That snake is no longer just a target. It is now a hired guide, an informant, a scout. A team then follows the beeping signal from that transmitter day after day from a plane or with a handheld antenna. They are not just following a snake, they are following a breadcrumb trail to a much bigger prize. The male leads them through impossible thickets and across hidden canals, straight to a breeding aggregation, a place where multiple pythons gather. Even more crucial, he leads them to the giant nesting females. These females are the engine of the invasion, each capable of producing dozens of eggs. By using the scout, hunters are no longer searching 1,000,000 acres. They are given a precise address. They can swoop in and remove not just one snake, but several at once, and destroy nests full of future invaders. The impact of this strategy is a game changer. It flips the script. Instead of targeting random snakes, it surgically strikes at the population's ability to grow. Think of it as shutting down a factory instead of just catching the products it already made. Since starting this program in 2013, the Conservancy of Southwest Florida's Scout Snake Project has stopped an estimated 20,000 python eggs from ever hatching. This method proved that intelligence beats brute force. But it was not the only clever idea on the field. The nose that knows no hiding place. While scouts worked from the inside, another classic partner joined the fight from the outside, man's best friend. But these were not ordinary dogs. They were elite, sniffing specialists, trained for one impossible job. In a swamp where human eyes see only grass and water, these dogs could smell the invisible. Meet the canine detectives, like a black Labrador named Truman or a Dutch Shepherd named Eleanor. Their training is intense. They learn to identify one specific smell, the unique musky scent of a Burmese python. To a human, a python hiding in a bush is virtually invisible. To these dogs, it is like a loud, smelly billboard. They work on a leash, guided by a handler, sweeping their noses back and forth across the tough ground. When they catch that python scent, their whole body language changes. They freeze, they point, they stare with absolute focus at a clump of grass that looks no different from any other. The handler moves in, and almost every time, right where the dog is looking, the patterned scales of a hiding python are revealed. These dogs can find a snake in minutes that a team of humans could search for hours and completely miss. They are incredibly effective, a powerful fusion of ancient instinct and modern training. But the Everglades present a brutal challenge for them, too. The terrain is punishing: sharp sawgrass, deep mud, blistering heat, and water full of alligators. The dogs need protective boots and cooling vests to work safely. And there is another, bigger problem: scale. Truman and Eleanor are amazing, but they are just one team. The Everglades is 1.5 million acres of incredibly difficult landscape. Even with the best teams, a dog might search 10 to 15 acres per day in this brutal terrain. To cover it all, you would need hundreds of these highly trained dog teams, an army of handlers, and a mountain of funding for training, care, and transport. So, the smarter tools, the scouts and the dogs, taught two critical lessons. First, technology and clever thinking could find pythons in ways human hunters never could. They moved the needle. But the second lesson was harder. Even these brilliant methods had limits against the sheer, overwhelming size of the invaded territory. The scout snakes could only lead to a few nests at a time. The dogs could only search a few acres a day. The war was being won in individual battles. But the enemy still held the map. The fight needed something that could think bigger, something that could see the whole battlefield at once and find a pattern in the chaos. The hunt was about to get a high-tech upgrade that nobody saw coming. Building the perfect fake meal. The hunt for pythons had become a story of brilliant but limited tools. Scouts and dogs were good, but the swamp was bigger. Scientists knew they needed something new, something that could work all night in the most remote spots without getting tired. They needed to stop chasing and start luring. This thinking led to one of the most bizarre and clever chapters in the entire war: the creation of the perfect fake meal. This was not a project dreamed up in a vacuum. It was a classic Florida partnership. You had the field experts, the people from the South Florida Water Management District, who knew the swamp and the snakes better than anyone. They understood the problem down in the muddy details. And you had the brilliant engineers and biologists from the University of Florida. These were the problem solvers, the ones who could build an idea from scratch. Together, they asked a revolutionary question: what if we could trick a python's deepest instincts? And so the Robo-Rabbit was born. Forget simple traps. This was science fiction made real. The goal was audacious: build a decoy so convincing that a massive ancient predator would think it was real food. The team started with a python shopping list. What makes a python strike? It's a combination of signals: the gentle heat of a warm-blooded animal, the faint enticing smell of potential prey, the tiny, almost invisible twitch of movement in the grass. The engineers had to build all of that. They started with a tough, waterproof body, built to survive the soggy, brutal Everglades. They covered it in synthetic fur that felt and looked right in the dim light. Then came the magic inside. A small heating pad warmed the decoy to about 99 degrees, the exact temperature of a living marsh rabbit. A battery-powered system released a special chemical scent, the smell of rabbit musk, letting it drift on the swamp air. The most advanced models even had tiny motors. These motors could make an ear flicker or a nose wiggle, just a little, just enough to scream live prey to a predator's brain. This was not a cheap toy. Each Robo-Rabbit cost thousands of dollars to build, but that cost included its secret weapon. Hidden deep inside was a motion-triggered camera and a GPS transmitter. This decoy was also a spy. The plan was elegant. Place these robotic rabbits in protected cages in areas where pythons were known to hunt. When a python approached, drawn by the heat and the smell and the movement, the camera would start rolling. The GPS would send an instant alert to a team of hunters miles away. They could race to the exact spot and catch the snake in the act. It was a trap that set itself. The moment they deployed the first batch of these decoys, everything changed. The alerts began almost immediately. For 2 days, it looked like an absolute miracle. The cameras captured incredible, chilling footage. Enormous pythons, some longer than 15 feet, would emerge from the water. They moved with slow, deliberate purpose, straight toward the fake rabbit. You could see their tongues flicking, tasting the artificial rabbit scent in the air. They would coil up and strike, wrapping their powerful bodies around the decoy, trying to squeeze the life out of a machine. The system successfully lured multiple large pythons to the decoys. It was working better than anyone's wildest dreams. The swamp fights back. Then on the third day, the system pinged with an alert from a unit near a deep, dark canal. A biologist checked the live feed, expecting to see another giant constrictor, but the shape in the water wasn't long and slender. It was huge, armored, and ancient. It was a 12-foot alligator gliding toward the decoy with calm, deadly intent. And this gator wasn't confused. It was attracted. It sensed the same things the pythons did: the heat signature of a warm animal, the faint movement, the promise of a struggle. In a violent explosion of water, the alligator lunged. Its jaws, which can crush a turtle's shell, clamped down on the protective cage. It shook the entire unit and smashed the $4,000 robo-rabbit into pieces in one bite. That single moment revealed the huge, unexpected problem. The decoys didn't just attract pythons, they attracted everything. And in the Everglades, pythons and alligators are ancient rivals. Researchers have documented pythons eating alligators up to 6 feet long, and alligators eating pythons. They have been fighting over territory and food for years. By scattering these irresistible fake meals across the swamp, the humans had accidentally set the stage for a predator war. The alligators quickly learned these weird, crunchy rabbits were easy targets. They began actively seeking them out and destroying them. The pythons, in turn, started sensing the much larger, dangerous gators hanging around the trap sites. The smart ones began to avoid the areas altogether. The project, as a removal strategy, collapsed almost overnight. The expensive machines were becoming expensive alligator snacks. The snakes were wising up. It looked like a total catastrophic failure. A high-tech dream chewed up by the brutal, simple reality of the swamp. But a funny thing happened on the way to failure. All those robo-rabbits, even the ones getting crushed, were collecting something more valuable than a single snake: data. Unbelievable amounts of data. Each unit was a little scientific outpost, recording not just attacks but everything. The cameras revealed pythons hunt most actively between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. They documented which water depths, vegetation types, and terrain features pythons prefer. Intelligence now used to predict hunting hotspots. It logged temperature, movement, the comings and goings of all kinds of animals. The cameras saw interactions no human ever could. They captured the tense standoffs between python and gator. They showed how predators shared the landscape, sometimes avoiding each other, sometimes competing directly. The hidden aftermath. The story of the python invasion seems straightforward at first. A giant snake eats everything and the ecosystem goes quiet. But the true aftermath of this invasion has a hidden second layer. It is not just about what the pythons are eating, it is about what they brought with them. An invisible stowaway that is making the entire swamp sick. When the pythons arrived, they carried a secret passenger, a parasite native to Asia called the Asian lungworm. This parasite lives inside the python, but it does not seriously harm its original host. The python's body is used to it. For the Burmese python, it is just a minor hitchhiker. But for Florida's native snakes, this hitchhiker is a nightmare, a death sentence. This lungworm now moves through the swamp, passed from python to native snake. The parasite's eggs pass through infected snake feces into the environment. When frogs or rodents ingest the larvae, they become carriers, and when native snakes eat these animals, the cycle continues. It attacks in a horrible way. The tiny worms travel to the animal's lungs. They burrow in. They cause massive swelling and scar tissue. It struggles for every breath. It becomes weak, sluggish, and unable to hunt or escape danger. Many of them simply drown in their own fluids or become easy meals for other predators. This is not a rare problem. Scientists have found this parasite in native snakes across roughly 35 Florida counties. It is everywhere the pythons have gone. The victims are some of the swamp's most important native hunters. The sleek, fast black racer, a snake that helps control rodent populations, is highly susceptible. So are water snakes, a common part of the aquatic food web. These snakes did not evolve with this parasite. They have no defense. Their bodies do not know how to fight it. So when the lungworm arrives, it wins. At the same time, these native snakes eat frogs, lizards, and rodents. With fewer healthy hunters on the job, the balance of those smaller populations can swing wildly, causing new problems no one predicted. The problem was never just the missing raccoons and rabbits. That is the first obvious wave of damage. The hidden wave is a fundamental sickness moving through the entire system. Lessons from the swamp. So, what is the lesson from this long, strange war in the swamp? The journey has been epic. It started with simple hunters staring into the vast, silent grass. It moved to smarter tools, scout snakes leading the way, dogs sniffing the air, and robotic rabbits tempting fate. Today, the fight is run by computers and data, a collaboration between state agencies, university scientists, and private partners. The battle has evolved from a desperate brawl into a calculated high-tech siege. Through all of this, one painful lesson screams louder than any other. Prevention is everything. Every scientist will say the same thing. Stopping an invasive species from ever getting in is 1,000 times easier, cheaper, and more effective than fighting it after it has made a home. The python crisis is the ultimate proof. The cost has been hundreds of millions of dollars, a shattered ecosystem, and decades of relentless work. Florida currently spends over $8 million annually on python management programs. All of it traces back to a few pet snakes let go decades ago. The real front line in this war is not in the swamp. It is in stronger laws about the pet trade and in public education. It is about making sure the next invasive nightmare never gets through the door. Because of this, the Everglades battle is more than a local fight. It has become a mirror for the entire world's future. It is a testing ground. Every strategy invented here, every piece of technology built, every painful lesson learned about predator wars and hidden diseases is being written into a new playbook. This is the blueprint for the next invasion, whether it is a lizard, a fish, or a plant in another country or another state. The world is watching and learning from Florida's struggle. The silent spaces in the glades are real. The sickness in the native snakes is real. The relentless grinding fight to suppress the python population is real and never-ending. There is no magical ending where the swamp is suddenly restored to what it was. Instead, there is a permanent, necessary campaign. It is the hard work of defense, of protection, of managing a mistake that can never be fully erased. The fight for the Everglades continues, a testament to human ingenuity and a stark warning about the fragility of the natural world. The lesson from the swamp is clear. Some battles are not about winning but about refusing to lose.